My name is Paroma and I welcome you guys to the newly renamed Dramas Over Flowers. It's my turn to do the intro this month and the outro, which makes me very happy. Yay! Okay, so before we get started on our predictably long yak, we have a tiny pre-yak segment this month. We got something in the mailbox that we wanted to share with you guys. So, let's get this started. Hey guys, we have an email from a listener, Tony, and I want to read out a segment from that email.
But it's our first listener email. This is very exciting. I'm very excited. We have to speak about this a little bit.
Sorry. Okay.
So yes, no, I mean, sorry to.
No, let's set it up again then. Okay.
Okay.
So guys, we got an email from a listener called Tony, and she doesn't agree with our take on what's wrong with Secretary Kim, at least a little bit of the critiquing that we did. And this is our first listener email, so we're super excited.
Yes. Thank you so much for writing to us. We've been waiting for this day.
Exactly. This validates us so much. We are now a proper podcast because we finally have someone writing emails to us.
So exciting.
Yeah. So Tony had this to say about our podcast episode on What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. However, I differ with your thoughts on What's Wrong with Secretary Kim a bit. I love that drama and I loved it best from episode 8 through the rest of the series. Here's why. After watching around 200 dramas, I can safely say my absolutely most hated trope in dramas is when after the leads get together, they are torn apart for some random and usually stupid reason. I loved that the characters stay together in Secretary Kim and we get to see them walk through the issues that came their way as opposed to someone trying to and succeeding in breaking them up or whatever. To me, the last few episodes were the most rewatchable and sweet. I'm sorry for my terrible reading, but we were complaining about, I think this is in response to the fact that we were complaining about how the last 4 episodes were primarily fillers and they didn't really need to be there. But it's a very good point. We don't often have dramas where characters get together, stay together, and, figure out, sort of face obstacles together. And that's what they did in the last 4 episodes. What do you guys think?
For sure. We don't get to see that a lot. And I did mention this a little bit when I was squeeing over the fact that we actually got to see their wedding, which was a fangirl moment for me. Even though I had issues with their relationship, I was like, these two look amazing in their wedding clothes and I'm happy watching them, So that's for sure. And I think our issues were more how, even though they did get together and stay together, maybe we weren't so happy with
their dynamic.
Yeah, maybe the way that they didn't really address a lot of those obstacles in a meaningful way was what was kind of bothering us.
Saya?
Do you have thoughts?
I think it's great. I really like all of the points that she raised, and I agree with the whole the aftermath of getting together and how important and great it is to see that. And I'm really glad that, Tony, that you found this in this show, but everyone's tastes are different. So I guess I didn't find the same thing, but I found that in other shows. I've loved shows other people don't like. Temperature of Love is one of my favorite romances ever. Everyone else hates it.
I don't hate it. I just haven't finished it.
I never finished it either, yeah. But to get back to Secretary Kim, though, yes, as Saya said, everyone's taste different. But also, I think I had higher expectations of this show because of how good it was in the beginning. That it wasn't just a regular rom-com that was
it just didn't deliver its promises.
Yeah.
Because you're more disappointed, that's why you end up being more negative, even if it wasn't in fact bad.
Exactly, and because we were disappointed and we were focusing on the negatives, I appreciate Tony pointing out this one positive, that once they got together, they did behave like a team, mostly. Even though the team could have been better. Yeah. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm back again. Sorry, we needed a transition here. But I thought I would take the opportunity to apologize for the first 30 minutes of my audio quality. I tried my best to edit it into shape, but it's still pretty bad. The 3 of us live in different countries and record our podcasts online. So, besides our antiquated hardware, which are in dire need of upgrade, we also have bad internet connection to blame for our audio weirdness. Especially, and usually, me. So, sorry guys. And thanks for still listening to us.
Hi everyone, this is Saya.
This is Anisa.
And this is Paroma.
And this is this month's Long Yak.
Oh, before you do, can I share a fun fact?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So did you guys know that today is International Podcast Day?
Really?
Oh,
I did not.
we're recording this on International Podcast Day.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
We're such noobs.
Wait, why do we need an international podcast day? I'm just confused with
To
the number
celebrate podcasts,
of
i.e.
days.
us.
Do we have an international television day and an international internet day too? I think internet
Yes,
is.
but
Internet Day is every day. Come on now.
so true. It's also every night.
Yeah. 24 hours.
Especially like late night to early morning when you really should be asleep, but you're not.
It's 4
Right.
a.m. is the most internet time of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to our watch list. We are going to start with Familiar Wife, which is a drama that Saya has dropped. I have not started, but Anisa seems to love.
Okay, so I started this maybe 4 or 5 days ago because I had I'd been meaning to check it out, but I've been so busy with school, but like I had a few hours that I needed to de-stress. So, and like we love Jisung around here. So I started, I actually really, really like it. I'm on episode 10 now. And it's interesting in that it has the time travel aspect, of course, but it's also, he's not a good person in the beginning. But the drama does a really good job of showing how he's really messing up his own, like he's so unhappy in his marriage, but a lot of it is his own fault, although his wife is also responsible for some of that. But he's so lacking in self-awareness, and he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong, and he just feels like he's miserable, and if only he had made a different choice, way back when, then he would have had a perfect life. And so he, like mild spoilers, but this is going to happen. He travels back in time and he changes the outcome of who he ends up with. Is that too much of a spoiler?
No, we knew that.
I feel like it's pretty built in, yeah. Because he has this first love that he always put on this pedestal, and so, but when he changes everything, a lot of things change, and then he has to kind of deal with
the consequence.
Yeah, and then like, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that his wife in the original timeline, who's played by Han Ji-min, comes into his life anyway in the new timeline, even though he's not married to her. And so then
is he actually married to the first love?
He is married to her, yes.
Okay.
So, and then as time passes, he kind of has to face up to the mistakes he made, and like, I mean, his character development. Or not his character development. Character development is really good, but his growth is very slow, but it's realistic. And so he's like at base, he's a nice guy, but he could be kind of thoughtless and like lacking in awareness about his own flaws. But it's Jisung, so he like really sells the emotional scenes, and it's interesting because it's most of the day you spend with him at work, where he works at a bank, and he has these like coworkers who are really great. Like, it's a really funny and interesting, like great kind of a work ensemble drama. But it has this layer of like melancholy, because the more time he spends in this timeline, the more he realizes that like that was actually the person that he should have been with and that he loved, and that he's made a terrible mistake.
Like his first wife.
Yeah. Han Ji-min, yeah. And Han Ji-min is also she's really, really good in this. Like, I've always found her to be, fine, if a little boring, but she is like so funny, and like, she plays a character who's like got a bit of a temper, and she has like a weird sense of humor, but she's very like lively and interesting and good in this. It's getting a little bit, there are like shades of emotional cheating and stuff now, which is kind of bothering me. It doesn't, I don't know, it's starting to cross some lines. It's getting a little angsty, but we'll see. I don't want to like have a final sort of a final verdict on that until I finish the drama. But the other thing is, like, her love interest in the current timeline is actually his best friend. So that also makes it very complicated. And the best friend is actually like a really great guy. He's amazing, and so then like that is that sort of like part of the conflict. And then his also the wife that he ends up marrying that he thought was perfect is not a great person. Yeah. So I mean,
curious. Sorry, go on.
No, I feel like they kind of had a get out of jail free card in that, because she's not a good person and he's not happy in his marriage. It's almost like they're allowed to kind of disregard her or like treat it as not a real marriage, which I think is...
That's what we usually do, right? Like,
yeah.
Married to that woman, so it's not really cheating if he has, emotional...
No, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of a murky, because he is married to her in this timeline. Like, he changed it, and now he is married to her. So like...
Yeah, but the way the audience, I'm assuming that what they showed the audience first was his marriage to Hanjime. So, from the audience perspective, the ground reality is that he was first married to Hanjime. So now that the time changed, this is more like a fantasy timeline. This is not real, because that's how these kind of stories usually play out. Especially if the story is going to be all about how the main characters fall in love despite being married to or engaged to other people.
Yeah,
they would show the original connection first.
That's true, but at the same time, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, like, as far as he knows, this is reality, and he can't go back. And I'm sure that there's going to be some way for him to go back, because it's a romance.
Does he remember? He remembers being married to?
He remembers everything.
But
the other characters don't remember, except for his former mother-in-law, who still has all of her memories of him because she has dementia.
Ooh. Wow.
So that is an interesting dynamic, because she sees him, she's like, Jasobang. So yeah, I actually like that aspect of, like, there is somebody who remembers who he used to be. And
yeah, so he hasn't gone insane. Like, that's kind of like a validation that this thing really happened, and that he's not an insane person imagining a previous life.
Yeah. So it's like in a way, it's an interesting take on, like, exes who didn't work out getting a second chance, except only one of the exes actually remembers that they're exes. So
it sounds super messy, man.
It is very messy. Yeah. So once I finish it, I'll let you know what I think of the way it resolved.
Saya, you dropped it, right?
So I watched about the first 40 minutes of the first episode with my sister. And if I hadn't been watching with her, I might have carried on to the end of the episode. But like, after that 40 minutes, we kind of both just like noped out, because both of them were really like horrible to each other. And it's just, everyone was yelling, and I was like, no, stop yelling. And they were both really shrill about it, so you're just like, and I understand that it has to start off at the worst possible point so that it can get better, or get even worse and then get better. But
and like, they're very miserable in the beginning, and I guess they needed to be that miserable, otherwise, like, why would he do this thing where he would actually like go back in time and erase his whole marriage, right? Like, it had to be something really bad. But I know what you mean. It is kind of a lot in the beginning. But it's the writer of, like, Weightlifting Fairy, Kim Bok-joo.
Was that the reason why I was going to watch it?
Yeah, High School King.
I couldn't remember what the reason was.
Yeah, so like, I mean, despite whatever reservations I had about Oh My Ghostess, like, I really love this writer. And I mean, so far I've really been enjoying the writing. Like, this writer just does those like daily, small interactions between people, and like the relationships, like the relationship he has with his sister and his friends and like his coworkers and his parents, and like, it's all really well done. And it feels like a really well fleshed out world. Like, the time travel device is ridiculous, but I mean, they always are, so I don't really care.
I'm curious about whether once he goes, into this alternate timeline, whether Ji-sung's character repeats the same mistakes as he made in his marriage with Hanjimin, because it did seem like he disregarded her a lot. So presumably the alternate timeline would give him a chance to actually, if the same things were happening in his marriage with the new woman, would
the thing
that
is,
like make him reflect on, oh, maybe it's me?
Well, he has. I mean, it's on episode 10, so he is reflecting, right? So, like in the beginning, he was just the same person.
But it takes 10 episodes to get there.
No, he's grown, but it's not like it would be kind of ridiculous for him to just change right away just because he traveled in time, right? So when he first travels in time, it's like, oh, my life is so great. I'm married to like, the daughter of this chaebol group. I don't have any problems at work. Like everything's great. I have a car, like, and then like slowly he's kind of starts to realize what mistakes he made, and like when he sees her, his former wife Han Ji-min, and she's so happy and successful and she has a job and like her life is all in order, and he's like, oh, so like marrying me was actually really not a good thing for her, and he starts, and like the more he sees her and talks to her and kind of compares her with his wife that he has now and kind of thinks about like things that happened in the past, and he starts to realize the stuff that he did wrong and the ways in which he contributed to their marriage just turning into like this misery, and I don't want to give away too much, but like I like the way that they're doing it. I don't know, your mileage may vary, each person is different, but I really like the way they've been developing it so far. It also just really depends on where they go from here, because right now in episode 10 it's like high angst level. Something has just happened which is like kind of made things very serious. So then like I don't want to spoil it. So
you've got me interested. So I'll wait until you finish.
Okay.
And then you can tell me whether I should watch it or not.
Sounds good. But it's a good relationship drama, I think.
So on to the next one. We have Terius Behind Me, which Saya has watched, I think, 2 episodes, and I have just watched like the first 20 minutes of the first episode, and it's super, super adorable.
Yes, let's hear about it.
So Terius Behind Me is actually, I think, the direct translation of its title, but the official English title is My Secret Terius. So you'll find it under both of those names floating around on the internet. But shall I talk about what it's about?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I think you've watched the most. I haven't seen any.
At this point, it's just aired 2 episodes. The 4, 1 week. And it's about it stars a Soji Sub as a Black Ops agent, kind of on the run, I think. So he's like a former special agent who is now doing nobody quite knows what. But
he seems to be trying to track down someone. Like someone has betrayed him, somebody died, and he's trying to figure out what the hell happened. So, but he is in hiding, definitely.
Right, and you've got as the female lead in this is Jung In-sun, who I think she just came off Waikiki, also called Laughter in Waikiki, where she also played a single mother in that as well. So it's kind of quite. How old is she actually? Because it seems strange for her to be typecast as a mum when she looks so young.
She
or maybe
looks sort of 20 to me.
Yeah. So she's a housewife.
She's young, dude. She's 24 maybe. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, she was born in 1991. So.
Oh, she's teeny. So she's a housewife and she's got 2 kids and a very chaotic lifestyle, as you do when you have young children. And they are actually like next door neighbors. They live in their apartments are opposite each other, and somehow their paths cross like this, and all sorts of things. The thing is, I think if I say too much now, it gives the plot away, and I don't want to do that. But it plays a lot with juxtaposition of like this high thrill, life, sort of undercover, high tech. Everything that's in Soji Sub's world, and like it juxtaposes that with Jung In-sun's sort of everyday, mum's network, going to school, school run, all of that.
Yeah.
And it's really funny the way they actually do this in the episode. I think it's in the first hour. I can't remember if you.
Oh no, yeah,
if it is or not.
It is in the first hour.
So when her kids are kidnapped, so her husband witnesses something that he shouldn't have witnessed. And there are consequences to that, and her kids end up being kidnapped by the guy who did the thing that the husband witnessed. And there's this like sort of parallel, they show in parallel the way the entire apartment complex social network of the parents, the mums and the dads and all of that, and how they have this sort of grapevine where they're having sightings of the kids here and there, and in the end they do rescue the kids. And they contrast that with this scene of Sojisa being chased by like, you know, elite government agents, and the satellites tracking him from, you know, like it was a really cool way that they showed that.
Done really well. But I think, you know what, right off the bat, just from the introductory shots, they established this really nicely. The juxtaposition between their lives and even the voiceover that Sojisa does. Like, some people live their life in order, and you see him with his daily morning routines, and some people live their life in chaos, and you see Jang In-sun's daily morning routine where she's trying to control her yelling, screaming kids and trying to kind of like herd them to the bathroom, and then, you know, to catch the school bus. And I like Jang In-sun's character here. Like, I haven't seen her in I haven't seen much of
she was in Circle. She was the doctor in Circle, in the younger, the future timeline, past timeline.
Okay, yeah, I've only seen like one episode of Woohoo Waikiki, so I don't really know her as an actress.
Okay, so I know the character you're talking about in Circle, but yeah, okay, so she was.
Yeah, no, you're right. She was memorable.
But then again, her character didn't have much to do, and she was a pretty late entry.
So
I like. Wait, sorry, go on.
No, I'm just asking. Like, is this a comedy? Is it? It's not a romance, right? Because
I was literally just about to say I like the way that they actually describe this as a hybrid genre of comedy, romance, and thriller. And like, it's all there. All of it is there. You know, with the high stakes, high tech spy thriller, alongside the low key slice of life. What's it called? Yeah. That.
Yeah, like a little bit like Man to Man, maybe, where there's like the spy hijinks.
The thing is, the high stakes part is genuinely high stakes. Like, it is suspenseful and it's dangerous. Like, all of it works on its level, and they work next to each other as well. Like, the way the genres cross is really natural. And it doesn't feel like any part of it is mismatching. You know, like, you can have these disparate elements. Like, for example, let's think about Work of Love, for example. We talked about how that had lots of really unusual mismatching parts. In the end, it didn't come together. With this one, it's got all of these disparate elements, but it's really, like, it works as a cohesive whole as well. So I'm into this one. It's good.
So and you said it's going to be a romance. So does your husband like die or leave or something? Like,
he does die. Is that a spoiler?
I mean, it's a romance. I feel like if it's listed as a romance drama, that can't be a spoiler unless. I mean, I want to know if she's cheating on her husband, so I feel like that's a legitimate question.
I just want to say that I really like how they have such different worldviews, because, well, clearly they have very different lives. And I really like how they introduce these elements, like how they use these elements to tell you stuff about these characters. They have this moment in the elevator where both of them, they live on the same floor, and they know each other as neighbors, though they don't interact much. But he gets into the elevator with her, and she's they're going down, and she starts talking to him, and she's like, well, you don't leave much. You're going out today. And he's like, who is she? How does she know so much about my movements? She's like, yeah, since you are going out, go to this bakery, because they're giving away like sliced bread. And she's like, because, you know, you only buy sliced bread. And she's like, how does she know?
And then a bit later where it kind of reminds me of what's that Vin Diesel film? The one with where he babysits kids.
Oh, it's a Vin Diesel film where he babysits kids. That's, everybody knows that film. We just don't know the name.
Anyway, so there's like I think this starts in the second episode because okay, her husband saw the thing that he saw was the murder of a very important, like a key political figure or something.
The pacifier.
Right, that was what it was called.
Oh yeah! Wow, how did you remember that?
I googled it.
Oh, okay.
Who cheated? Then the mission that he takes onto himself is to protect her family, to protect Jong-Inson's family. So he actually asks her, let me be your babysitter, because she now has to go back to work since there's, she no longer has a husband who can bring in any income. So there's all sorts of stuff sort of being set up, and you've got Son Ho-jun who's playing, I think he's the villain, but I'm not seeing him that way yet. Maybe it's sort of leftover affection for his previous characters. I don't know much about him, but I'm enjoying his character, although he does seem a little bit murderous.
He's also so cute that you can't really see him as a villain. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is he gonna like fall in love with Jong-In-sun, who's just become his secretary? So oh yeah, so you've got these really hilarious moments of Sarisa like being this straight-faced Vin Diesel style babysitter, where the kids are just like like testing and challenging and demanding.
Oh, that actually sounds hilarious.
It's so funny. And like he's riding the slide and one of the other dads comes along and is like, don't you understand what these kids are doing? They can ride that slide 100 times. It's because he does it with a total straight face, and it's like these kids bundled in his lap like teddy bears, and it's so cute. So funny.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You want to watch this.
I do want to watch this.
Next up is Heart Surgeons. Saya?
Okay, so Heart Surgeons also started airing this week. It's got 2 episodes out. And so interesting fact about this one is that it is from the same writer as Defendant and City Hunter. Interesting. Okay. Same writer PD pair. So the same team that was behind Defendant is also behind this show. And I really liked Defendant. That was a good one.
It was.
And it also has Ki-jun, who was also in Defendant, although the last thing he was in was I Think I'm Not a Robot. So he's shed the villain image a little, at least. But the main character is played by Gosu. I don't think I've ever seen him in a drama. I don't think I've seen him in anything, although...
I saw him in Will It Snow for Christmas, long time ago.
Oh, that was a mellow, wasn't it?
It was a mellow, yeah. It's one of the few mellows I've ever watched.
That aired after You're Beautiful. I know because when I was watching You're Beautiful, it kept having the teasers for Will It Snow for Christmas. And it was very confusing. So it's got the usual conflicts, that most medical thrillers have about which lives are worth saving and all of that. So you've got Gosu, who's the main character. He's a graduate of a no-name medical school, which, by the way, makes no sense to me because any medical school is worth its salt just by being a medical school, as I understand it. So I don't know. Maybe Korea is different.
No, I mean that he didn't graduate from one of the top prestigious ones.
Oh, because our ones, again, as I understand it, if it's a medical school, it's prestigious, because there aren't that many medical schools. So, I don't know, maybe it's just different in other countries. The show opens, like it has this cold open where Gosu's character, whose name is Taesu, he effectively sabotages like a VIP surgery, a heart transplant surgery, by running away with the donor heart. So you open with that and you're like, what's happening? No idea. And then it rewinds 4 years. So then you have the first episodes which set up the story of how he makes it into one of Seoul's biggest university hospitals. So his mum needed an emergency surgery that no one was willing to do except Ki-jun, which is actually really I think it's maybe my favorite aspect of the show so far, because it sets up this really touching relationship between these two. So between Ki-jun, who is a professor, a senior surgeon, and Go-soo, who is at this time a fourth-year resident, I think.
Isn't he a little old to be a fourth-year resident? Like,
well, he looks old, but like, let's go with the story.
He's like in his 40s. Okay.
Yeah, isn't he older than Ki-jun as well?
He
anyway.
is, yeah. Okay. Maybe he has a tragic backstory, which means he went to
Yeah,
school.
I mean, this is the backstory.
Okay.
So the first 2 episodes set that backstory up. And it makes you invested in understanding why Tesu would like defy or turn against the professor when he doesn't just owe him his mother's life, but he also owes him his position, and he also has so much respect and affection for him. So I'm like it invests you emotionally quite quickly. And yeah, I'm into this one. I like it.
Well, I mean, those two are such good actors. They can definitely carry whatever they need to.
Yeah. I was gonna bring up Life later, but I don't actually have to say much about it, so I'm gonna bring it up as another medical drama.
That's also a medical drama. Yeah.
And the primary relationship, or at least the primary conflict there, is between Lee Dong-wook's character and Cho Seung-woo's character. Lee Dong-wook is like the relatively morally upright guy, and whereas Cho Seung-woo is more of a profit-centered, like the shark hospital director dude. It's like very generic characters. But yeah, so the relationship that's been set up between the two of them, it's complex, and they are supposedly moral opposites, but there is other stuff going around. Like, nobody's exactly black and white. There are shades of gray, which is all interesting. But the drama was taking so long. I mean, I got 2 episodes into this, and initially the first episode was actually pretty interesting, but 2 episodes into it, it's I don't know if there are pacing issues or what, but I just can't make myself pick up the 3rd episode anymore. So, but Heart Surgeons isn't like that, I'm assuming, right?
Not at all. The thing with, like, for example, medical thrillers in general, or medical dramas in general, is that they always have this aspect of, your main character who gets into trouble for prioritizing patients' chances, really, over hospital policy. And it's like there's an argument for both of those things. Hospital policy exists for a reason. But, like, it's about how invested you make the viewer in the outcome of that, and how invested you make them in the conflict in the first place. It sounds like Life isn't really getting you invested into that.
It's really not. I just keep like I have like a mental box of tropes that each genre has, and Life has all of the tropes, and none of the tropes
that's
have
kind of surprising though.
Yeah, that's a shame because it's the team from
Forest of Secrets. Yeah, right. You'd have expected more. But at the same time, I also kind of get it, because, like, it's completed airing now, and quite a while ago, and it has had a generally good reaction, but I guess that's for people who have stuck to it to the end.
Exactly.
But the other thing that also is that, like, when Forest of Secrets was airing last year, I didn't actually watch that while it was airing. I kind of watched it. Well, I caught it at the very end of its airing period, but it took me a long time to get into it. But I stuck it out because people kept saying, "This is so good, this is so good," and there were even people who were like, "Oh, this is better than Signal," which no, sorry. And
I mean, I wouldn't say that, but it did catch me. Like, I felt like it grabbed me for the first couple of episodes.
See, I didn't. It took me, and you're going to laugh, but it took me 8 episodes before I was like, okay,
wow,
now I'm invested.
Now I'm going to laugh about the fact that you watched 8 episodes without actually getting pulled in.
Yeah, I don't know how you do this, Saya. Like, I do not have that.
Because all the people were saying this is so good, and I'm like, I love thrillers, okay? So if it's a good thriller, I'm willing to give it time to get good, apparently. I didn't know I was.
This is the kind of personality I do not understand. For instance, we have a podcast guest is gonna be like, we are gonna have her as a podcast guest in the coming months. So there is a friend of ours, Real Greenfields, and she's a beanie. And we were talking about how we were watching. You guys were watching Mr. Sunshine, right? And she abandoned it at episode 18, and she says that she has heard that apparently it gets better from episode 19. And who watches 18 episodes waiting for something to get good, guys? It's like,
no, to be fair to her,
be mildly invested.
Yeah, no, and to be fair to her, while she's like not here, we're talking about her.
Sorry, man.
But I mean, yeah, I think she was saying that there were other things that were kind of interesting, but it's just that it didn't really become like the main plot.
It's like watching mediocre dramas to the end. We've all watched mediocre dramas to the end.
We have.
That's like it's a thing you do.
Just for me, it's like
mediocre books.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm going on 10 years of Korean dramas. I'm not as patient as I was in like my first year, where I would watch like crap as long as I finished it, you know?
Okay, I've never had that personality disorder that you guys seem to suffer from, where you have to watch crap, like even though you guys are clearly not enjoying it.
I don't understand how you can just like fast forward massive chunks of things.
Because
since we're talking about it, we might as well talk about Full House at this point.
Yeah,
I was just if anyone follows me on Twitter, they might have already seen my various Twitter meltdowns about Full House. But I did watch that to the end. God save me. No, it's too late to save you. But
God will only save you if you save yourself, woman.
Yeah, and fast forwarding is one of the tools that God provided. Why won't you use it?
God forgive me, okay? That's what I mean.
I feel like you always do that. You also sometimes do this thing where like you want to be part of the conversation, so you're like are willing to kind of endure more.
Well, the thing is,
part of the conversation.
Somebody called Paroma, who shall not be named,
was
like, this is so good, and you know the romance and the relationship, and I'm like, okay, if it's that, and she has been, you know, right about stuff before. Like she's the person.
Thanks, man.
Faith.
Oh, you've had a correct opinion before.
But you have what is it called?
I've lost
undone
credibility.
all of that. Yeah, basically. I'm never taking your romance recommendations again.
Look, if you had fast forwarded the way I had, but I hadn't suggested it.
Why
but
would you fast forward?
Look,
like, a rom-com should
it was
need
very
to be fast forwarded
from 2000. Dude, it was a
romance.
2004 drama. Of course, you should fast forward it.
I'm trying to remember any part of it that I would rewatch, and there is not a single part.
No, it's
of
not
it
a
that I would
rewatchable
rewatch.
drama. It's just a drama that was fun because of the main lead's chemistry.
It wasn't even. Do you know he was not nice to her? Rain was not nice to Sung Hye
Of course,
for
that was his personality. He was not a nice guy.
97% of the time. I've seen dramas with worse guys who are better. Okay, it's.
No, I agree.
Man.
I am not justifying his behavior. His behavior was bad. But it's not, again, this is not, I don't even know why I'm defending this drama. This was like a middling drama at best, where I said I enjoyed the bits of the romance that I did watch. And look, I would fast forward through
the bits of the romance that were actually good. The bits of the romance, okay, I can remember one conversation. But you know, that one conversation was immediately reversed like 3 seconds later. And you're like, every step forward he took, he would take 30 steps back. And that's not fulfilling to watch.
No, it's not, which is why we have drama heroes now who don't do stuff like that. But we needed drama heroes like those to get where we are today.
I would unwatch that drama.
So for me,
that was the...
Yeah. So for me, this drama's only real value in 2018 is like as a historical artifact of... You know, where K-drama was. No, and also like where K-drama was at that time. Full House was extremely popular. Like not just in Korea, but in like I think Taiwan and like Japan and stuff. Like I think there were like Japanese ladies that used to come over. Like I think this was like the second wave of Hallyu. Like the first one was with Bae Young-joon and stuff.
Understand why, and I don't get like. There's nothing about his hero which is like.
Okay, but he's Rain.
Oh,
so
okay.
like you have to take that like pop star fame and like fangirl love into
I like Rain, okay? I've seen him in several dramas, and I've liked him in nearly all of them. And I especially since Sketch, I'm like, okay, this guy is good. And of course, there's a huge gap between when he did Full House and when he did Sketch. But like,
and also, I think the other thing is that like it was one of the first like contract marriage cohabitation dramas. Now we've seen like oodles of them, and it's not really new for us anymore. But maybe at that time it was like a fresh new thing that now it's been like copied and done to death. Even the song was catchy.
It didn't fully utilize the possibilities of the contract.
No, it didn't.
There was much more they could have done with it that they didn't.
Right, and no one's arguing that it's a good drama. Just that at that moment,
someone called Paroma who shouldn't live.
Oh yeah, at that point, I genuinely enjoyed it. Look, I did. I liked the fact that they were like bickering siblings, and really their characters were so juvenile. You can't expect sophisticated emotions out of those two. They were like kids, and they were like teenagers falling in love, and it was kind of cute. And I enjoyed that. I stand by what I said. It's a cute romance. If you know your fast forward button, you have to fast forward through all the secondary characters.
I don't think I would have, though, is what I'm saying. Is that even without those, like in the moments that were just those two, I didn't find it compelling. And yeah, I guess that's
okay. Then that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine, man.
Yeah, and it's fine. You can disagree on it. It's okay.
It's cool.
You can have different opinions.
I am like just having fun annoying you about this, by the way. So don't take it.
Yeah. I have a feeling like 10 years later, I'm going to recommend something and Sarah's going to be like, you know what? You did recommend Full House that one time and I suffered through 16 episodes. I don't think I'm going to.
You're never going to be able to forget it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But before we go off to like the completed list, I want to finish the currently airing ones. And we still have Ghost Detective on it, which is also only being watched by Saya.
I think I bring the elements of darkness to this podcast.
I want to watch this. I just don't have time. Grad school is
it's really good.
A bummer.
So you've got it's starring Daniel Choi and Park Bin. And also like the rest of the cast, the secondary cast is really, you like them too. So what happens? I'm really rubbish at this and I didn't think about this at first.
He's detecting ghosts?
Right, so you would think that, right? But then, I don't know if it's a spoiler to say this because it is a spoiler, to you guys at least, although everyone else already knows. So he's a ghost detective, but not in the way that you think. Are you guys going to watch this?
Investigates for ghosts.
I am.
Ghosts bring cases
if
to
you're
him?
going to watch it.
Yeah.
So wait, is this revealed in the first episode? Because then I'm okay with finding it out.
It's revealed the end of the first episode.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But it's a big one. First episode or second episode?
Okay, you know what? If it's a big one, then let it be. I mean, we can talk about it in the next year.
Yeah.
But watch it. It's good.
Okay.
So also, the first week is the really scary week. And the Wimp's guide to watching this show is watch it during the day. Nothing is scary during the day.
Good
if you watch it at night, it will you will just die if you get scared easily like me.
Okay.
But then after that, you only need to cover your screen once or twice during an episode, so it's okay. But I haven't watched Age of Youth and stuff, so I've never seen Park Bin in anything before. I really like
she's
her.
so good.
She's so good.
She's wonderful.
She's
and
so
how have you not
young.
watched Age of Youth? What is wrong with you?
Because I've been saving it. I've been
For
saving
what?
it.
2 seasons now, man. How long are you going to be saving it?
Because I know it's going to be good, which is kind of like it's why I want to savor it more.
And yet you watched Full House.
That was kind of going on the coasting on the whole the audio commentary that we recorded and have not yet released, but and somebody's recommendation.
No, but definitely watch Age of Youth. You will be happy that you've seen it.
I would like to point out that Anisa recommended Full House first. Okay.
I didn't tell you to watch it. I just thought it would be entertaining to do a 1-hour commentary on it.
Okay, so the thing with Ghost Detective is that it's got, like, the world has rules. Like, you do spend a lot of time speculating on, like, what exactly is possible in this world where, you know, ghosts exist. What can they do? What can be done to them? So the main villain in this is the woman in red, which is played by Igia. And she goes around killing people, but not actively. Like, Paganbin's sister was killed by the ghost, but what she does is she, like, whispers into your ear and she makes you kill yourself, right? So it's really, it's scary.
That is creepy. So would you say it's, like, more of a procedural or more of, like, a thriller?
It's definitely not a procedural. It's difficult to describe, actually. It's a lot. It's very sort of character centered on the central trio of Daniel Choi, Paganbin, and Igia.
Would you call it, like, psychological horror?
Yeah, I'd say it's a psychological something, but it does move a bit further away from the horror.
Okay.
And more into investigating, like, you know, what is the woman in red? Who is she? Where does she come from? Why does she do that? And then there's quite a lot of reveals that come sort of every episode, so it's difficult to talk about without giving stuff away. So I do want, if you're going to watch it, I want to wait until you've watched it and then talk about it, because like every episode leaves you hanging with a horrible cliffhanger.
So I do want to watch it, and like I'm gonna have a week off. This week all my midterm papers are due. After that I'll have some time off, so then I'll get a chance to.
And it's really atmospheric, and you know, like it's kind of warm-hearted as well, surprisingly, for something that's meant to be a horror. So it's got lots of elements that would keep you watching even if you were not into horror, and I'm not into horror at all.
I'm not into horror, but I do like psychological horror. Like I loved Get Out. But also Get Out, it's a movie that came out. Oh my gosh, it came out last year. It was big.
Yeah, it was like, really good. I watched it too.
Yeah, it was really good. And it's more of a psychological, like a parable about race in America and like liberal racism. Anyway, it's really good.
Oh, interesting.
It doesn't really get gory until like the last 30 minutes. Mostly it's just extremely
it's kind of like
very smart.
Messing with your mind. You don't know what's going on. Yeah. You're on a ride with the main character trying to figure out what is wrong with these people. So yeah,
so basically that's, you know, just saying like that's pretty up my alley, so I'll definitely check it out. Plus this cast is awesome.
Yeah, cast is good. Also Daniel Choi has cheekbones you have never seen before.
Yeah, people on Twitter want to stop talking about that. What happened to Daniel Choi?
I was shocked. I didn't recognize him at first. You know,
like, I felt like that with
watching.
I felt like that when I saw Hyunbin in Secret Garden, because he lost so much weight and I didn't recognize him at first. I was like, oh, who is this person?
Yeah.
And then I realized it was Hyunbin, but he had just lost so much weight. It's a little bit, I don't know, bothersome.
Was that before or after Army?
Yeah, it's
concerning. This is all Army related for Daniel Choi.
No, that was before, right? Okay. Secret Garden was before Army.
Yeah, it was before. It was his last big project before Army, so it didn't have anything to do with
Have you
Army,
seen the trailers for the Memories of the Alhambra? Because he looks
I haven't, but I'm excited to watch it either way.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think I saw some like first script reading pictures.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that in the
every time I see
in the upcoming, even though it's not coming up for a while.
Ages.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it.
But let's move on to our list of completed dramas, where we have actually watched the full thing and we have opinions. So
yes,
we've already spoken about Full House, so that is that. And do you guys want to quickly talk about 30 but 17? Because I really want to get to My ID is Gangnam Beauty. But
yeah, and
Why don't we start with my ideas?
no, because then I'm gonna talk for a while, and I want to talk about 30 by 17 first.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
plus 30 by 17 is the one that we all watched and finished.
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. So what did you guys think by the end of? Okay, you know what? Forget about it. I'm gonna talk about what I thought, because I was so concerned about where they were gonna take the relationship, and I'm so happy the way they handled everything. I mean, by the halfway mark of this drama, I already had like full trust in this creator team, but I was a little concerned because, well, I told you guys in my head, like, she's 17, but as Sayab said in the last podcast, and as Seori says in the drama, she was actively aging herself up, and she says that I think it's in the final episodes where she's like, I feel like I'm around 25 right now, like as a mental age, and we could actually see that. We could see how much she's grown. So yeah, there was
it more something like, I might not be 30 yet, but I'm at the very least like 25 or whatever.
Yeah. So I like that they did that. I like that it shows that the writers were also thinking through the consequences of, the psychological consequences, the physical, emotional, how much she actually knows about the world. I do have two gripes, but I'll get to them after you guys talk about your general opinions.
Okay. Sai, you want to go first?
Well, my general feelings are a sort of a extended high-pitched squee, but I feel like how this show left me feeling is the same way I kind of felt at the end of Poem a Day, You Who Forgot Poetry, which is that I really, really liked it, and the way they resolved everything was like in the best possible way.
Yeah.
But it was low stakes. Like maybe it never set out to be particularly high stakes, which is fine. But I worry that makes it maybe forgettable after you finish watching it, because like if the highs had been higher and the lows had been lower, and it wasn't that, and which is fine, because like I think this is actually how I would define a healing drama, is where you don't have these extraordinary highs and extraordinary lows, but you kind of go along at this gentle pace of an up and down and development and growth, and in that way I think I would ultimately say this was a really healing and life-affirming drama. And I think the way everyone's arcs were resolved was also, like, there was a lot of care and love in it. Like, everyone got to have a good resolution. And even, what's her name? The Rinkim. Because, I complained about her a lot last time. I really liked the way that they handled that storyline, because that could easily, because this is what happens to female characters, isn't it? Which is like what you were saying in Familiar Wife, is that one woman has to be elevated at the expense of another.
Right.
And I liked that they didn't do that to her character. Like she got to reflect on herself, and she got a chance to grow out of her own it was like self-directed. It wasn't that she didn't have to be sort of booted out, and she did like hear real talk. People told her, look, stop being jealous now, but she actually actively reflected on herself and decided to change. And I really loved that she actually approached Sori with friendship later. And it was like, that was such a sweet, wonderful resolution.
No, it was. The duet of violins. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
And they did that with all of the characters. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I also really loved it. I thought, like you said, it was really healing and sweet and, very warm. And you get to see, like Chen have his heartbreak and then his growing up moment. And my heart was just, I was like, Jenna! And then, like, even the Jennifer storyline, as they were slowly revealing stories about her background, I was like, I don't know, is this going to be like really cliched? She has a dark past or whatever. But I ended up like really feeling moved and like crying about like what she had lost and the way that she kind of found a new family. Like, it was so nice. Like, everything about it was so, and like the whole through line with the shoes with Jennifer was just really touching. And I just really liked how but like what you were saying, Sai, about the low stakes, I don't necessarily think that it's low stakes because there was some really significant trauma and they healed from that trauma. But I think the reason that it felt more low stakes than it even was because the way they like drew out everything, like every reveal, you had like 10 fake outs, and then like for every, like they kind of dragged out a lot of things that would have had more dramatic impact if it had just happened. Yeah. Instead of like that you get like 5 or 6 moments of like, oh my gosh, is it gonna happen? It doesn't happen. And then when it finally does happen, you're like, oh, it's probably not even gonna happen this time. So it kind of takes all the tension out of it. So I feel like because of that, it felt even more like low key and very like without the highs and the lows, like you're saying.
I have to also say that I feel like they did do one character a really big disservice, which was, Hyungtae's character, the friend, the doctor friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, but in that moment when I was talking about it was like all of the positives, but I do think that the show fell down in maintaining its tension because of that withholding, because all of those things, you knew they were coming. It was just a matter of when. Like, I'd guessed that Uncle had died, right?
Yeah.
It was just like, when are you going to tell us? When are you going to sort of stop torturing? It wasn't just torturing us, it was torturing the characters, and it was unnecessary and it wasn't organic.
Yeah,
like,
and
it felt like all of those things should have come sooner.
Yeah, and if they had, for example, Hyuntae, was his name Hyuntae? Yeah, Hyuntae, if he had come in like earlier, then like in the last couple of weeks, he still could have felt that conflict of like, oh, she's made this like new group of friends or / family, and I don't really I'm not the only one in her life, and he would have still had to struggle with that. But then she would have had a chance to like have a friend from earlier.
Yeah, and like they took that chance away from both of them, and they especially like took it away from Hyungtae. And it was so unfair on his character.
And like just on a writing level, like they could have had more conflict if they had met again before she started dating Woojin. So that there wouldn't be like this, oh well, she's my girlfriend, and he's like, oh, okay.
I'll back off then. I can't possibly have any other relationship with her.
Like what is there? Yeah, like they're all such good people. He's not like he's gonna like actively try to break them up. That's not who he is, right? He just wants the best for her, and so then he just becomes like this sad, lonely puppy. It's okay. I became a doctor for you, but that's okay. I gave up my own dreams, but like whatever. Like helping people, so like that was it. Like I just felt so bad for him. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was like they could have had Sori and Hyungtae could have actually had an adult relationship. Like wherever that relationship went, but we didn't even get to see that, and it was so like that was like a really short-changed, character.
They didn't even get to like come back to having a friendship, really.
Yeah, and she would like, how much would that have meant to her to have that friendship? I mean, yeah, her new friends were wonderful and amazing, but one thing to connect her to her old life.
Right. She didn't have a single person that she knew from her old life.
Well, she has her aunt and her nephew now, but...
No, I think her aunt was pretty definitively, like, cut out. Like, again, I didn't even understand, like, where they... Like, with the aunt, she didn't want to be involved in Sori's life at all, but it was as if it was Sori's fault, and... Like, I didn't get the aunt angle.
What I didn't understand was how they... What I didn't understand was how they were trying to redeem the aunt, saying that she hadn't spent the money. If she hadn't spent the money, then why wasn't she paying for Sori while she was in coma? I mean, it would have made more sense.
Yeah, it's like you left her for dead.
Yeah, exactly.
You practically...
Oh, you woke up,
dead.
Sori.
Like,
what when she had just abandoned the girl, and they would have pulled the plug if the payments had not happened. So...
Right. So what's the point of keeping that money if she's you basically killed her?
Exactly. So you might as well say that she had paid the people off. Like, how did they pay off? I don't know, whatever reason she spent. She sold the house for. Maybe she really needed the money at that point. Okay, so commit to that.
But she didn't use it. So why did she sell it?
Exactly. So that makes absolutely no sense. So I think it was a last-ditch effort to redeem the aunt. Oh, she couldn't actually spend the money, so she had left it. She left it for what? A dead girl. For all she knew, Sori was dead. She hadn't kept up with what was happening with Sori, or she would have known that Sori had woken up. She had no way of knowing that somebody else had taken over paying for Sori. She had literally left the girl for dead. So what was the point of not spending
Yeah.
the money? I did not understand that last moment. And it felt like a retcon. Like
Yeah,
as if they were saying,
wasn't it?
oh, we need someone from her past life. And Suri seems to be trying to forgive her aunt or something. There was that graveyard scene towards the end, where she was trying to be friendly with her aunt. And why?
But her aunt was still blowing her off.
Well, she wasn't blowing
Like,
Yeah.
what's
her
that
off.
about?
I mean,
After all of that,
it wasn't exactly blowing her off. She
like
was doing,
rejecting.
no,
No, she was like not
Barely
looking at her
rejecting
and not
her.
talking to
yeah,
her.
yeah, she was more like
Mm.
I'm too embarrassed and I don't think like I didn't think that she was blowing her off. It was more a situation
No,
of
but like it was an emotional rejection. It was an I don't want you. Like that's how I read
okay,
that
maybe.
scene.
So, but anyway, so there is that. They seemed like they were going off to have a meal because I don't know, Shuri insisted that they go off and have a meal. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying. I don't think the aunt would be a meaningful part of her future life. That just did not. Where
Yeah. No, and I think
Hyungtae
they
would
just
have,
tried too hard. Sorry, go ahead.
which is where Hyungtae would have been a very useful character to have. Like, they should have shown something of her relationship with Hyungtae. I mean, it's not like the only relationship she could have had with this boy was romantic. They could very easily be friends. They have had.
And they were friends.
They were
That was the whole
friends,
thing.
So, okay, in my imaginary
Yeah.
future for Shuri, they are friends. So, okay, so there is that. Were you guys okay with Jennifer's backstory coinciding with Shuri's accident? Was that okay with you guys? Because I really didn't like it. I didn't like that.
That was
I
so kind
mean,
of teased from the
No,
beginning.
it was
It was
teased
just a
from
matter
the
of how.
beginning, but I didn't like that it was like the moment when the guy responsible for the accident came to apologize to Shuri, and Shuri's having this moment where she's crying and accusing him of killing her friend, and there was this entire thing, and the guy kept saying that one girl died, one student died, and the other one was in coma. And then suddenly Jennifer comes and says, you killed my husband too. There were two deaths. And it just, I don't know, for some reason it felt like it felt really out of place.
Oh no, that was on my mind though because I suppose because I've been reading speculations and stuff,
Yeah.
and the part where when Sumi died, when the announcement was made, there were two names on that screen,
Right.
and yeah, I'd been following the speculation, so I was expecting that connection, which is perhaps how they
Yeah, but
expected
look, I
us to
mean, would
watch it.
Jennifer would end up in this house of
So-
all houses exactly when Shuri wakes up? Like, come on, man. It just.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of
drama
coincidences, but that's how
starts
dramas
with
work.
so many. Yeah, like there are
Yeah.
so many coincidences. So for me, I'm just like, okay, it's just one.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm fine with
So-
coincidences that span like a period of maybe a few days or a few weeks. I am not okay with coincidences that spans 13 years in such a weird way. I don't know, that really pulled me out. I was really invested in Jennifer's story before that because it was also very clear what had happened to like how she had lost her husband, she lost her child, she became she emotionally repressed herself. All of that stuff was clear even before the last minute revelations about how her husband died. But so I was really invested in Jennifer's character up until that moment when she rushes towards the guy and is like, "You killed my husband." Wow. But yeah. That's just me.
I think that was just I think that was just one of the weaknesses of the writing. Is like on one hand, I found the dialogue to be incredible and very, very well done,
yeah.
and like the day-to-day interactions between the characters were really, really nice, and there were some really great lines. But as a plot, like as someone who's like doing the plotting, the writer didn't really do a good job because there were so many moments where like instead of organically making the story longer, they would just be like, "Oh, it's not time for you to find out this yet, so I'm just gonna do a fake out." Yeah. So that was like something throughout the whole drama that was a problem for me. So.
Yeah, like it was better in its sort of as a micro
Right.
written in its micro moments than it was as a kind of an overall.
But yeah, the broad strokes of the story were not quite as.
No, but I would like to point out that I didn't mind how long they took to reveal the revelations.
Oh god, I was so bothered by it.
Yeah,
it just made me so annoyed.
I would say it drove me nuts.
Okay,
that was the one thing that really bothered me.
Yeah.
Everything else was good and cute and nice and happy.
And I only kept watching because those moments. the small things, the daily stuff was all still very watchable.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I
And
might
for
have dropped
me,
it if not for that.
on a personal note, like just it was a little bit triggering in some ways, but also like kind of very moving for me because like she goes through this thing that happens when she's 17 and then she basically like loses 13 years of her life. And like I wasn't in a coma, but like I've had a similar experience where like I, you know, got sick when I was in high school, and the next like 10, 12, 13, 15 years were just kind of stolen from me in a way. So actually the first couple of episodes were kind of hard for me to watch, but it was nice for me to like watch her getting her life back. Like that was a little bit healing for me. So just I liked that.
So the drama
really
did achieve what it set
appreciated.
out to do.
Yeah, I really appreciated what they did with the final episode where she's trying to figure out what path she should take for her future. And like she has two options, both good, but one requires her to spend next 7-8 years studying. And she's like, I'll become independent when I'm 38. That is so old. And in her head, that's terrifying. How could she like she's already lost so many years, she would lose another 8 years on this path. And I liked how they dealt with that. Like so long as she's happy, she can take the path that she needs to. It doesn't matter how much time it takes. What does it matter? I mean, she doesn't have to live life according to other people's timeline. And that really resonated with me because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with my life till I was like 28, 29. And wait,
No, for
that's
sure.
this year. But anyway, I only recently figured it out, very recently. But and if I remember when I was in college, and I was really depressed about the fact that I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And all the opportunities that everybody around me saw for my future, I was actively rejecting them because they were not opportunities. Those were not the paths that I wanted to go down. And repeatedly, I had to hear from people around me that you have a limited time. You have to do things within this time. You're going to be 24 soon, 26 soon. You're going to be, and it's just that as if age limited me in how much I was allowed to dream. I have to figure out a timeline by the time I'm 20 and live that. I know this, like I'm not a snowflake. Everybody has to go through this. I'm just saying that because I was not going down that path, because I was going against what people were telling me, I had to listen to people tell me that I'm a fool more often. And I just really appreciated that the end message of this drama was basically that take your time. Just like, so now you're happy and you're doing what
for sure.
Yeah.
And you're with the people you care about.
Yeah. No, and that's like for me, I had to kind of teach that lesson. That was for me, it was the opposite. Like I was putting pressure on myself. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like I've gotten to this certain age, I didn't do anything. Like all my peers are already like so much further along, like this life path, whatever that means, like we have this idea
Exactly.
of what we're supposed to be doing at certain ages. Yeah. And I was like, I'm failing at all of that. But then I had to kind of come to peace with the fact that like I have a different path and I have to just live my own life and at the pace and at the time that's right for me. And so yeah, that definitely, I really, really loved that as well. Really resonated with me.
Yeah.
So, like whatever, like, sappiness or corniness, like it was the good. I was talking to my sister because she watched this with me too. And we were saying like, it's corny, but like, it's a good kind of corniness, it's like an enjoyable,
like it tells you the things
corniness
that you need to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and that people don't say to you.
Peel,
Don't sink peel.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's so corny, but I mean, I'm going to just always love and remember Chan from this. This is not why, like, it's not going to fade into my memory because of Chan.
No, that's true. I loved Gong Woo Jing's character. I loved their chemistry. I loved Seori and Woo Jing together. But it's Chan who's gonna stick in my memory in the long term. I can tell.
Oh, I have to say, Shin Hye-sun really blew this one out.
Oh, she was so good. It was her show from beginning to end.
Oh, totally.
And it's like, Yang Se-jung, I don't think this is one of his stronger projects. Although he wasn't bad, but like I feel like I've seen him being
this was very easy for him.
I just next to Shin Hye-sun, it's really everyone would pale next to her. She's amazing. Like whatever she tapped in this show, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like her entire heart.
She's always amazing, but in this she was like incredible.
And I've never seen her play a character exactly like this. Like we have discussed this in the last podcast, where she's mostly played secondary characters before, and it's just that this was not just a new character. She was literally playing a 17-year-old in a 30-year-old's body, and I bought it. I bought it. It was her body language, the way she spoke, her smile, just everything about her. So, oh my god!
Not only that, but we like watched her grow up.
Oh yeah, we totally watched her grow up. That's true.
Yeah, and you could see it. It was amazing.
True.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Of course, like she had a magically available, fully functional wardrobe the moment she needed it. To like that, which is something.
But I mean, you know what?
I like the way it was done.
At least they had an explanation for it, rather than just
the girl who gave her that magically available wardrobe vanished without a trace. Like, did you guys remember what happened?
Actually, that's another character who kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, and she was. I feel like, why?
I feel like there was, all of that random empty time which they could have done stuff in, and I get that they wanted Chan to have an attempt at a love line with Ajumma, but like the minute glimpses we had of the girl whose name I don't remember, but I think of her as the Yoon So-hee of this drama, right? And like she was like rated, she was the top student at school. She wasn't an airhead, okay? So that was like there was stuff that you could do with that, and they didn't go anywhere with it. Like, Banner, they had across the
and they had time. They had time.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. They prioritized other scenes. I feel like they must have taken some footage, like something with her character towards the end, and then decided to just leave it in the cutting board because they wanted to prioritize other scenes instead. And I think that was sad because she should have had at least one scene. Just something with Chan towards the end. Like it doesn't have to be a romantic arc necessarily, but just the girl was just so earnest and she's kind of insane, but I liked her. So
yeah. And she wasn't mean or mean-spirited or catty. And it's like you had so much potential to make an interesting second character here. And you know what I thought we might have had? Because all of Sori's friends were like, they were all men, okay?
Yeah.
And she didn't have, apart from Jennifer, she didn't have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that could have been her 17-year-old friend,
Yeah, and in do you remember, you guys have seen High School King of Savvy, right?
Yeah.
So in that character,
his character in that, right?
Oh, okay, that's why you were mentioning it. Yeah, so he was an annoying stalker, but then she ended up being actually a really important character, and I kind of loved her by the end. Like she was really annoying for a long time, but her relationship with her sister and kind of watched her grow up too. So they did that writer is a better writer, but yeah. So that
wasn't it the same writer?
No, that writer is writing Familiar Wife. That's
right.
Yeah. She's not the writer for this drama. But yeah, so anyway, that was kind of a missed opportunity. Shall we move on?
So yeah.
Yep.
Moving on to my ID is Gangnam Beauty, which is not a drama I expected to gush about at all. I was pretty mean about it in the last podcast, I think, because just the name itself made me look. What I expected from it was that this was going to be one of those dramas where it's all like the story was going to superficially touch upon how you should focus on inner beauty, not outer beauty, or something like that, which is really good message, but often not packaged very well. And no, I was wrong. Yes, there is that, but there is just so much more about this drama. I'm just gonna, this is one of those dramas where I can confidently recommend you guys watch the first episode. And if you're not hooked by the end of the first episode, then this is not for you. You wouldn't have to watch a second episode. Either you're hooked by the end of the first or you're not. And they put in so much detail in the first episode, just the the begin. Are you guys still there? Or you guys are really quiet.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
we're just listening to you.
Yeah, wrapped.
Sorry. Okay. Just the starting scene was so good. They do this thing. Okay, so do you guys know the basic premise of Gangnam Beauty? Like, the main character gets extensive plastic
Right.
surgery, so which is
She
why
gets-
she gets called
Yeah.
Gangnam
Yeah.
Beauty. Okay, so the main
Yeah.
character is played by Im Soo Hyung, and I've never seen her in anything else before.
I have to confess that I really don't like her.
Okay,
At least
I
based
think
on
I've
the
seen
stuff
her
I've seen
play
her in things
serial
before.
killers.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Maybe I watched her at the beginning of her acting career where I just found her to be a bad
what
actress
did
and I
you
didn't
watch
really
her
like
in? Like in the beginning?
She plays the second lead in I Do,
Oh,
and then
okay.
this is like a while, like 5-6 years ago,
Okay,
stuff
okay,
that I've seen her
So
in.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. I don't think I would have liked this drama as much if the drama had solely focused on her character. But one of the major strong points of this drama is once they have settled the baseline for her character and the dramatic arc that her storyline would take. Once they have set that up, it becomes more of an ensemble storyline, and you find out
Is it like a campus drama?
it is a campus drama, and it's a very college.
Okay.
You actually feel like you are in this college campus as much as you can in a K-drama.
You mean they're not just roaming around
They have
with backpacks
classes
on a
It's
campus
insane.
as if they're in a photo shoot? No.
They have classes, and one of my favorite. There are these two episodes.
Classes.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. There are these two episodes in the middle of the drama. I'll come back to it, and that's to do with the male lead, which I need to talk about. But hold on, I'm just gonna set up. So the way this drama just there is Im Soo Hyung's character, whose name is Kang Mire. Kang Mire is in the subway train with her mother. She's traveling to the hospital in Gangnam, and I'm assuming it's in Gangnam. It's never actually specified. She's in subway train, and she has a face mask on, and she has a hat that she lowers over her eyes, so you can't actually see much of her face other than a bit of her eyes. And she looks around. She's standing in the train, and she looks around herself, and every woman she looks at, she gives a mental score to out of 100. And initially I couldn't figure out what the score was about, but like, was she trying to see if everybody else has plastic surgery, how obvious the surgeries are, or what? But eventually it turns out that no, she's giving them beauty scores. How pretty are they in her eyes? So it's like some women got 65, some 85, something like that. And what they should be getting, what surgeries they should be getting to improve their looks. That's for the cataloging of those things, and it's done in this.
This is the main character.
This is the main character, and she's in a pretty dark place, like in her mind. Like she's a high school student. She's just finished high school, and she has gotten into Hankook University, which is like this super prestigious. I don't know if that's a real university. I think it's modeled on
It's real.
Seoul.
Yeah, it's real.
That's real.
Oh, is it real?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the documentary filmmaker that we were supposed to have visit she teaches there or something.
Okay, cool. Okay, then, and she got into
Sorry,
that.
random aside.
That's right.
The real
So
university.
she got into that university, and she's good at studies, clearly. And but before she starts university, her mother and Mire decide that she's going to have extensive plastic surgery, because her face, we are never quite shown her face ever till the end of the drama, and it's always a blur. But we are constantly told that it was so bad, she was so ugly that everybody made fun of her. She couldn't get baseline respect from anyone. Like, for instance, she was good at dancing, but she could never dance in a group. She could never, she could see other teenagers dancing in the mall when the music's up, but she couldn't join them because she knew that the moment she did and everybody focused on her face, people would react badly. So she always hid herself, and she kind of made herself smaller, invisible. She had a friend throughout middle school who goes to university with her later, but she refused to hang out with her friend in school because otherwise people would be making comments about her face and her friend would fight with them. So she wanted to avoid that. So she only associated with her friend outside school, like in her house or a friend's house. It was a very isolating existence.
Wow.
And that's how she's always lived. And the only people who are perfectly okay with the way she looks, of course, are her parents. And her dad especially is super proud of her. But the reason I'm laying all of this stuff out is because all of this is very obvious just in the first half hour of the drama. And man, there is just so much just character information just in those moments. It's really well written. And okay, I had a minor surgery recently, about 2 weeks back, and I had never been in an operating theater before, so I did not know. I would not have been able to recognize how much detail they put into just showing us the OT and the procedure before you have a surgery. The detail was really spot on, and of course I'm going on about it because I'm just so surprised that they got everything so right. They were intercutting that scene with moments from her past. And then there is this moment when she's walking back home, and in her mind, she thinks she's so horrible, so monstrous, that the shadow she sees on the road, this elongated shadow of a horned monster. And it's a really beautifully done scene. Just everything about the first episode impressed me. Okay, so all of that stuff done. She gets her plastic surgery. She starts attending university. And here is this girl who's never been pretty in her life. And she got a lot changed. And she goes to university, and from the first day, she gets admiring looks. And it's very obvious the way her face is structured that she has got surgery done, because we talk about this a lot. Like, if you've read about this in articles a lot, about how that particular V line that Koreans seem to appreciate a lot, that does not come naturally quite. Like it's never that sharp if it comes naturally. Usually,
you can tell.
Usually, you can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and Young is one of those actresses that you can tell that she's had work done.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the reasons she was cast, though. And one of the things you have to really appreciate about this drama is that she knows, and she's like, I just wanted to look normal. Instead, I look pretty now, and it's very obvious that I had surgery done. So right off the bat, anybody who looks at her, like majority of people look at her and they know that she's had surgery done. So there is that mild prejudice going on there as well. Like, people love looking at her, and she's called pretty, all of that stuff. But yeah.
So I guess my main question, because when I heard, you remember when we were talking about upcoming dramas and this one came up, we're all like, oh, that sounds like a train wreck. So do you feel like they did a good job of like critiquing the plastic surgery culture and like the the over obsession with like looks and the way society
here's what they did.
Like, do you think they did a good job?
Instead of critiquing the plastic surgery culture, they critiqued society's expectation of an ugly person should remain ugly. Why are they trying to become pretty? And how, if you are born with a beautiful face, as the main lead, the guy, what's his name, Cha Yoon-woo's character, which is Do Kyung-suk, he was born, wealthy family, a beautiful face, and the characters in the drama keep calling him face genius, which, okay, yeah. Anyway, so, but the thing is that he was born with all of that stuff, and so was another character who becomes important later on in this drama, called Suya, and she was born pretty. This girl, Suya. So when Mirei first sees Suya, she does that mental scorecard thing, and in the end, she's like 100 on 100, a super rare natural born beauty. Like, I'm making it sound staccato, but in her voice, it was like imbued with this awe. Like, she's not just beautiful, she's naturally beautiful, as if that's like a special talent. You know what I mean? And that tells you a lot about the mindset of the main character and the people around her. One of my favorite things about this drama is how Mirei has this wonderful character arc where she actually begins to see the people behind the faces. And she's actively trying to stop herself from judging people based on their looks. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And she's a likable character from the get-go. There is this thing where in the initial episodes, I couldn't understand why I was having so much difficulty with her face. It seemed so shiny and slack somehow. And I think it was deliberately done, because in later episodes, her face is no longer that shiny. She actually has more expressions on her face.
Maybe they were trying to show that it was like scar tissue.
No, not scar tissue. I think initially she was just not used to her face. She didn't know how to react to situations. When people gave her compliments, she literally froze up. Whereas when people were giving compliments to Suya, the natural born beauty, she was, she demurred. She was graceful, gracious. She's someone who's grown up being called pretty. There is also another woman, which is Kyung-suk's mother, who's also another natural beauty, so to speak. And she's older now. She's 47. And I love her relationship with Mire. And it's that there is a backstory there that has nothing to do with Kyung-suk. And I love it because there is this mentor-mentee relationship that she desperately needed, that her parents could not provide. Like, Kyung-suk's mother gave her perspective on, even though you have beauty, your life may not work out the way you thought it would. There is also, I'm talking about this for so long. The side characters are all really well done, and I can talk about this for hours. But yeah, do you guys have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to talk about Cha Yoon-mo's, Do Kyung-suk's character a bit.
Yeah, you've given us like a really good mini deep dive all by yourself. So it sounds like a lot deeper than I thought it was, to be honest. I
am so surprised by this drama. I was not expecting this level of writing. And honestly, I want you guys to watch it because I want you guys to bring some perspective. Sometimes when I watch something that surprises me, my ability to critique its shortfalls completely vanishes. One thing before I move up to that. Mire, the actress, Im Soo-hyung is 28 years old, and she didn't really want to do the part of a 20-year-old. And the fact is that in the drama, it's very obvious that her face looks more mature than a 20-year-old should be. It looks more polished. And also she's very tall and model-esque. And there's a good reason given for that. Like with plastic surgery, you often do look a little more mature. They try to hit that sweet 20-something mark, like in mid-20s mark. And she is very tall and athletic. So the result of the plastic surgery was that she actually looks like a model. But she has the personality of a shy introvert who's never had more than one friend and has been mocked all her life. So you understand, like, there is this huge discrepancy between who she is inside and who people perceive her to be. So that's So I thought Im Soo-hyung was pretty good at showing that. Again, if the drama had wholly focused on her, I probably would not have enjoyed it because her character had a lot of depth, but alone she would not have been able to show as much as the drama showed with her, through her interactions with other classmates of her, or parallel stories happening with her classmates where she witnesses something but she walks out of the room because she's intensely uncomfortable, but the storyline there keeps going on. Like the characters do their own mini arcs. So she interacts with the arcs, but she is not the main lead. You know how you have sometimes dramas where the main lead solves all the problems for everyone? This is not one of those stories. Like, other people have their own storylines where they solve their own problems. So that's.
So is this more like an ensemble
exactly,
drama? Exactly,
which you and they don't do too many filler situations. Like almost every scene that I saw there was reason why it was being shown. So finally, our main lead, and I have not seen him in anything before, but Do Kyung-suk. He's a chaebol, okay? An unhappy chaebol kid with coming from a broken family, but he's a chaebol, and he's deliberately isolated himself. He calls himself an outcast to Mire, but Mire points out that you voluntarily became an outcast, whereas I was, forcefully outcast. It's not the same thing. So yeah, I really like their conversations. And there is this point in the drama where my opinion of the drama and this character changed completely. I have never seen them do this before, where this boy, he walks out on his father because his father had lied to him about something and he discovered it. And he's 20 years old. He's always had credit cards in his pocket. He's never been penniless. But he's like super determined that I'm going to live alone. I'm not going to stay with him anymore. Rah, rah, rah. But he cannot feed himself. He goes looking for part-time jobs, expecting high pay for limited hours of work and maybe, very little work at that. And everybody's looking at him and they're like, well, you're very pretty, but I don't think we can pay you these wages for these few hours. And he does not understand how money works. He takes a taxi when he has barely any money in his pocket. And then the next morning, he doesn't have enough money to feed himself breakfast. But I love it. He's this super broke 20-year-old boy who does not know how to live on a budget. It's humbling for him. and I love it. He got more character development in those 2 episodes when he had no support system than he did in of the previous, I think, 8 episodes before that. So I love it, and I really, really started rooting for that character after those 2 episodes happened. So yeah, overall, I love this drama. It has so many nuances, and I need you guys to watch it so we can properly talk about it.
Yeah, or our listeners, if you've seen it, weigh in.
Yes, write to us, like leave us a comment about it, or tweet to us, or I don't know, email us. All of those paths are available to you.
Yes, all those lovely things.
Yeah. Okay. Saib, you want to talk about Time now? You finished watching Time, right?
So yeah, Time. Kim Jong-hyun left, and he took the charisma with him. So it kind of he died. It's not a spoiler. He died at the end of episode 12, I think, which left another 4 episodes to wrap up the show without him. And Seo-hyun's character, who was called Sol Ji-hyun, Ji-hyun, she kind of turns to the dark side, sort of halfway through the drama. And she gets Kim Jong-hyun to marry her, and then they both try to bring the perpetrators of this big cover-up of her sister's death to justice. And of course, Kim Jong-hyun's character dies before that can happen, but he dies as a result of his dad trying to off Ji-hyun. So that brings in the bigger villain of his dad, who is the CEO of a big company. He's the chaebol dad. So it turns into this whole everyone's trying to kill Ji-hyun, but the 2 people who were sort of the former villains, they've now all teamed up. So Eun-chae, who is the person who originally, what's that actress's name again? The one who was Yeriel in I'm Not a Robot. Anyway, that actress. I can't remember. Should I look this up? No, it doesn't matter. So the 2 former villains team up with Ji-hyun, except you never quite know what they're doing, because they're so unreliable, whether they're actually on her side or not, or whether they're going to backstab her 2 seconds later, and they do sort of constantly backstab each other. So you're just like, this is going round and round in circles in an unfulfilling way, and it's meant to ramp up the tension, but rather than ramping up the tension, it just kind of, it makes you tired of it, and you just want it to end at one point. And I think by episode 12, I was ready for that show to end. It really lost something after Kim Jong-un left. Like the kind of the charge and the electricity that he brought with a certain element of unpredictability as well. And the unpredictability that we were left with was not the good kind. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it did as best as it could, but yeah. I don't think any of those actors had the charisma to carry the show.
Was there any kind of closure at all?
Yeah, I mean, everything kind of ended. It ended in quite a good way. Eun-chae seems to become sincere in her desire, because it's only after Kim Jong-hyun dies that she realizes what it's like for someone to die and just have the case closed when they've died in suspicious circumstances, and not get any closure about it, and not be able to bring the truth of what really happened to him. So because of that, she joined Ji-hyun. But still, they waver a lot. You never quite know whose side they're on until literally the very last moment. But they do, everyone goes to jail. She turns herself in. All sorts of redemptive arcs begin for them. But you kind of stop caring about them too much. I think the person I most cared about at the end was Hwang Seon's character, because she had a little bit more of that sort of dark sort of electricity about her, much more than any of the others did. So I think this whole show, I think what it proves is that the show was really carried on the personality of the actors. Sohyun she's a serviceable actress. She's definitely not bad, but I don't think she's got what it takes to carry a show.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's sad, but at the same time, like, I'm glad that he left for the sake of his own health.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
True.
But I imagine it would have been quite a different ending had he been alive for, had his character been alive. There would have been a romance. Oh god. It might have saved the show.
Yeah.
So is that the end of our list?
I think I've got one more.
No?
I've got Your Honor, which is also one that finished in the same week.
So,
do you want to go first, or shall I?
Your Honor, I never watched it. So.
Okay. Right. Okay. So Your Honor was the Yoon Si-yoon playing a pair of twins drama with Lee Young. Actually, I have to say I don't have a lot to say about this. I just want to recognize the fact that there was a lot to say about it, because I know a lot of people in the fandom who've been watching it, and they've got really interesting commentaries on it. I was watching this too casually to read into all of the law stuff on it, but it did deal with a lot of stuff like sexual harassment.
You did mention that last time.
But it did it followed through, which is what I think a lot of dramas haven't done. And the other case that they had in there, which was one of the central a central part of Lee Young's backstory, was her older sister had been raped, and the rapist had got off, just because do we even need to say why?
Because they do, yeah.
Yeah. And he had been a chaebol as well. No, he was somebody influential and powerful with a lot of powerful backing and a very expensive lawyer. And it had turned into a case of where, the victim had been put on trial.
Like a Supreme Court nominee, perhaps.
I was carefully not saying that.
Yeah, it's been
nothing like that, obviously.
It's been a rough week. Anyway, yes. No, I'm glad to hear that.
So, although that trial had been sort of over and done with, and they couldn't go back on that. Was it that no, I don't remember. But in any case, all of the chaebols were punished. If not for that particular crime, they were punished for a later crime, and it was Yoon Si-yoon's character, both of his delinquent fake judge character, who had really pursued justice for the sake of punishing these people who were never punished. One of the things it didn't capitalize on was the relationship between the brothers, which was a really complicated, sort of tangled thing. And in the beginning, it seems like, good brother, bad brother. So the judge is the bad brother, and fake judge is good brother. So it didn't go deeply into that, but it did spend a bit more time on his other character, the judge, the clean-cut judge character. It was again one of those quite sort of low-key dramas. It did have sort of high stakes and lots of tension and all of that, but at the end it sort of focused on giving the characters healing, and I quite like that, I think, in the drama. And it's not really something you see often in a legal drama either. But I think, the best thing was bad people got punished. Yay.
That's all I want from my legal dramas, honestly. Especially when real life is so disappointing in so many ways.
I do feel like if I had watched it a bit more closely, I might have got more out of it, but I did watch it really casually, for sort of more for entertainment reasons than edification reasons. But I did want to just sort of give a nod to the fact that there was a lot of sort of good, strong and interesting discussion in the fandom about, the way they handled all sorts of different and important topics in the show.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
That was it.
So before we close the episode, I have a question. Anisa has apparently dropped My Horrible Boss, which is a drama I really enjoyed. And Sarah, did you watch it?
No, but I thought you hated it.
Wait, I'm not talking about Introverted Boss. I'm talking about My Horrible Boss, which was
also known as Mrs. Temper and Namjang.
Wait, you dropped that? That was good.
So I mean, I can't even say that I dropped it because I only watched like one episode and it stressed me out so much that I was just like, I can't watch this. He's so... I can't handle watching him. He's like stressing me out. It's like I cannot.
Actually, I get you, but it does get better. And
I got like 90% of the way through the episode, and then like when I realized that he's like gonna mess up his like very important presentation, I was just like, I can't watch this.
But the whole point of this show is that he is a beta male. That's like the entire premise of his character. That he's a shrinking, sort of non-confrontational type, but then it's also about how he's learned to stand up for himself. It is worth. I mean, again, it's one of those low key ones that, but which is the kind of drama that you tend to like more than I do.
So maybe I'll go back to it. I just like at that time, I just couldn't. I couldn't take it. I wanted something that had like. Maybe I was just looking for something that was gonna like make me happy rather than like make me feel anxiety. I just couldn't.
I should dig up that a little convince me to watch recording that Paroma and I did like more than a year ago now, where she tried to convince me to watch, and it did in the end work. So maybe it will work on you too.
I mean, if you both liked it a lot, then I will give it a try.
See, here's the thing. You remember
when you guys agreed.
You remember Iuri's character from Father is Strange, right? The eldest sister. You remember how much you loved her character? So. Yeah, I wouldn't say Eowyn's character here, which is Miss Temper. I wouldn't say her character is like Iuri's. Iuri had a much better sense of humor, but she is competent like Iuri's character was. You understand? And she's the problem solver. So where Yoon Sung Hyun's character is learning to stand up for himself, and that is his entire arc. And of course, there is this romance with, with Eowyn. But far more important is the fact that they have simultaneous arcs where they help each other. And she also has an arc, but it's not as pronounced as Yoon Sung Hyun's. It's more about. We all know the sexism women face at workplace, but she's a woman who's manipulated the sexism and sort of powered through it and gotten to the top position. And then she leaves her fantastic corporate job because she will not bow down to the powers that be. And she goes to work for a much smaller firm where Yoon Sung Hyun is. And she is so competent and she's so smart that she is like a gift to this small firm which was barely staying afloat. And it's about her struggle to stand up, and she no longer wants to be part of that work culture that she had sort of powered through and won over.
Type.
Yeah, exactly.
She just didn't want to.
She didn't want to be part of that.
I haven't actually gotten to the point where we meet her.
Oh,
what?
Yeah, I just couldn't get there. I was just like too stressed out by what he was doing.
Push through, you will like.
Okay. But when you are in the mood for it, just don't give up on it completely. Come back to it.
No, I mean it's on Netflix. It's very easy to watch. It's still on my list. I'll get back to it at some point.
Well, can I tell you what I'm going to do after this, because I want everyone to know.
Okay,
sure. I'm going to watch Player. I'm so excited about this show. So Player, which started yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but I will watch and I will come back to you next year. I can tell you how good it is.
I hear about it.
Okay, and in that time, I'm going to try and watch The Third Charm. I don't know why, but I'm going to try and watch it.
I'm really excited for Fox Bride Star, you guys.
Oh, did they finally decide on a name? Like I thought they kept changing it.
It's Where Stars Fall, I think.
Yeah, I think that's Where Stars Land. I think
Where Stars Land.
Yeah,
official English title. Yeah.
Right.
I'm excited for that.
Me too. Yes, I need something happy. As we were talking, I'm very stressed out right now. So maybe that's why that my horrible boss didn't land well for me, because like all of my stress about like getting my assignments in and like finishing all the massive amounts of work.
You know how you can automatically like decrease 90% of your stress?
Drop out of school and waste my parents' money.
I was about to say quit school. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So that's all the dramas we have watched and we are watching and we may not finish watching. which is life.
And a planet to watch.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have a penguin joke this time, Saya?
We don't have a penguin joke. We have your joke.
Oh.
I promised it in the last deck, therefore.
Yes, your dad joke. Let's go. I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, so wait, what is the joke? Hold on, give me a second here.
I don't know.
That was the most dad joke. I forgot the joke.
Hey, hold on. Shush.
Anyway.
How did they word this? Because the wording is important. Hold on. Oh yeah. So why is the paper so terrible?
The paper?
Yeah. Why is it so terrible? It's extremely terrible. Why?
Because of bad news?
No.
I don't even have a guess. I'm not good at this, clearly.
Oh yeah, you're the Paroma for this episode.
Why does all the pressure is always on me?
Because you always come up with the best stuff.
That is true. Okay, should I give you the answer?
Why is the paper so terrible?
Yes, let's hear it.
Okay. Yeah. So
Ready.
the paper is terrible. Tear paper.
Oh, that's a terrible pun.
Oh. So that's it. No question this time, guys.
Yeah.
We'll come back with this in the next yak.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
And that was our long yak. You may have noticed that we didn't cover news or upcoming dramas in these last 2 yaks. The reason for that was lack of time, not enthusiasm. We totally intend to keep doing them, and if you guys have any piece of drama news you think we should absolutely talk about, bring it to our attention in the comments below. Tweet to us at dramasoverflow, that's our new handle, or email us at starsinOurPocket@gmail.com. You'll find all of these in the description below. You can also support this podcast by leaving reviews wherever you catch our episodes and telling people about us, like your friends, your family members. Tell that cousin you barely talk to about Dramas Over Flowers, your newest 17th favorite podcast. Okay then, till next time. Bye guys.